Welcome to Bettering Our Community. My name is Suzanne Bernier Robinson. Today we have the pleasure of meeting with a couple of ladies from the Derry News. We're going to find out how they're reaching out to the community. I have with me Joanne McKenzie. Joanne is the editor of the paper. And Julie Huss. Julie's been a reporter for, tell me how long?
19 years this year I'll be there. 19 years.
I knew it had been
in various
while.
Capacities, yes.
Yes, yes. That's a testimony how great that
thank you.
paper is. Joanne, I'm going to start with you. If you can tell me how long the paper has been published.
Well, first, thanks for having us, Suzanne. And astonishingly, this is our 135th year of publication. As you may be aware, we, about 6 weeks ago, went to a free publication and expanded our readership to about 23,500 homes. So significant changes for us in our 135th year. But
tell me a little bit about how the paper started out. Do you have some history about maybe what the circulation was back then? If maybe it was, what, 5 cents? I don't know. What do you know? Do you know anything, Julie, about
you might better answer.
I believe it began in other locations around town. I believe the History Museum actually has one of the original presses for the paper. I'm not sure exactly where the location was, but I know that it, it began so long ago and has morphed through many, many different publishers and editors, and has a really rich history in this community. And we're really happy for the longevity and the tradition.
Well, Joanne, and thank you for that history, Julie, because it's just quite an accomplishment for 135 years, and I'm sure it's had quite a few great articles, more than a few, of just the history of Derry. So I can only imagine.
The early editions, we have countless bound editions dating back to the beginning that are available for people to look at, or for history purposes. But the paper began very, very community oriented. Who was going to whose birthday party, all the small towns were covered, a lot of community focus like that. And, and I think that's still what we strive to do.
Yes, I was going to say it really hasn't changed. That's how the paper is today.
Yeah.
Well, Joanne, why don't you educate us a little bit as far as what your role is as an editor?
As the editor of the Derry News, it's to oversee content, both stories and photographs, to a lot of public interaction with a weekly newspaper, particularly one that's so well established in this community. Our readers are amazing. They're the source of a lot of news stories that we end up doing, or feature stories. I always welcome readers to get in touch with me, either by email or calling, stopping by occasionally, or on our Facebook page, which is a very, very active site. If there's a story they think we're missing or that they'd like us to write about, we're always receptive to that. So we've recently added a new reporter, and some people may have met her on Saturday after the Derry Little League parade.
Oh, good.
Her name is Brianna Edelstein. She's a local, grew up in Windham, graduated from Salem High School, went to UNH, so she's got deep roots in the area. And she was at the parade, and in celebration of our 135th anniversary, she had some foam Derry News baseballs that she handed out after the parade.
Wonderful.
And you will see us at events throughout the year.
It's nice that that you're welcoming the community involvement in the paper, in the sense that if you know of something happening that you want us to cover, if you've got a great idea for an article, let us know. So can you provide your email address if someone would like to contact you and jot down their thoughts?
Sure. It's easy. It's editor, editor, at derrynews.com. You can always call me directly at 421-3875.
And on Facebook, would they just search for
For Derry News NH.
Derry News NH?
Because given the area's deep connections with Ireland, there is a Derry News in Ireland, so I get email at least once a day intended for the Derry News across the Atlantic, and they also have a Facebook page. So it points to the connection between the two areas. We do sometimes correspond, but yes, Derry News NH. And you know, on that page, we often solicit, one of the things we've been doing for a couple of years now, I guess, is reader photos. So probably 3 or 4 times a year, we'll come up with a theme. Right now, we have one, Signs of Spring, after this horrifically long and brutal winter. So we invite readers to submit their photos from the area about a specific thing. Last year we did one on backyard wildlife, which was amazing, some of the photos we got. And then we publish a page of those, of reader color photos. So that will be coming up possibly in next week's paper.
Okay, so it's an active, engaging,
very active
Facebook site that you have.
We do get, you know, I heard sirens last night, or I saw 2 police cars in my neighborhood. Do you know what was going on? We get a lot of inquiries, and we try to answer those, but you know, we are a weekly, so we're not quite on the daily deadline that those kinds of questions might be more appropriate for. So I think
it's a lot of work putting a paper out. My first job was working for a publishing company, so I know the daily, I don't want to say stress, but it's busy and it's active and it's last minute. You've got
and exciting.
Exactly. I guess that's the environment. There's a lot of excitement there. Things are always changing. Priorities are changing. You still need to get that article out, but all of a sudden you've got a new one that you've got to create. So Julie, tell me, what is it like being a reporter? What towns do you cover? Give me a typical day.
Typical day in the life of Julie. I cover Derry mostly now, and Brianna's now on staff, so she's covering Londonderry a lot. So they're the 2 basic towns, and we're doing Wyndham coverage now as well. So I'm pretty embedded in Derry right now. Town council, school board, schools, all the organizations. I mean, there's always something going on. I will admit, I enjoy the feature stories a lot, you know, meeting the people in certain organizations or doing things like that. You know, someone does something great, some family that does some charitable giving, you know, mission. I mean, all those are great stories. So there's always something going on. I mean, the town politics are exciting.
Yes.
Sometimes frustrating.
Yes, to that too.
That's just part of the game with that, but. So I do a little bit of everything, but you know, and Londonderry the same. A lot of great people in Londonderry and a lot of great things going on over there. So, and through the years, I've done pretty much a lot of different things. You know, to end up being the reporter, and that's fine. That's great. But you know, so I've learned a lot through the years doing a lot of different other things as well. You know, assistants and doing a lot of different, you know, capable things. I hope I'm capable, but a lot of things, learning photography, a lot of things like that. I like to take pictures a lot. So
that was one of my questions with the photography. Do you do your own photography for the articles?
I do a lot of my own photography. We have a great photography staff as well that will, for the main stories, we rely on them a lot for front page art. And you know, a lot of the school stories, I may take my own pictures. And we do our herd around town every week that we'll sneak up on 5 people in the community and ask them a question, you know, off the top of our head. And
is that what that's called? Herd?
Get the man
and
on the,
it's
yes,
so
the
funny,
man
I
on the
thought of
street question.
H-E-R-D with herd, like, what are they?
Around town.
But yes, H-E-A-R.
That's kind of neat, you know, you come up with a question and just get people's thoughts and reactions about a current event.
And those are usually some nice photos. They're the headshots.
Oh yeah, they're fun and
expressive.
Then you know, you're popping into the bingo game, or you're popping into the, you know, the stores, and you know, just meeting people in various
catching
areas,
them off guard.
Catching them off guard, and just kind of hearing what they think about things.
Do you find that people sometimes aren't receptive to having their voice in print? I guess, is that a way to put it?
Sometimes it depends on your question. Some people are very eager to give their opinions, or will give you nice long opinions, and then they will say, well, yeah, but don't put that in the paper. Don't take my picture. Oh, but yeah, most people are very, very helpful.
Right.
And I think they like to get their opinions out there.
So it sounds like your day probably runs from 7 to 7? Or even
Once
later, I
get to
guess,
work,
with the
well,
meetings
there's a lot of
with
night
town.
meetings, a lot of sometimes weekend things that I will go to, but it all works out,
Right.
you know, but there's always something going on.
Right. So you're very, very,
It's a
very
busy time.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you're covering events from morning till night. I mean, and even
And some days are busier
later.
than others. Some days you'll have assignments right in a row, and I like to go in person a lot to the assignments, to the schools. I like to go a lot to Pinkerton and talk to the kids in person, and you know, a lot's done by phone, but I tend to be going somewhere a lot.
I think that's important. I mean, you get a feel for the environment, and that is incorporated into your article, I'm sure,
Yes.
as far as what you're experiencing when you're there too.
Yeah,
You
I
can
just
see
like
how
to,
many people are at the event, and
I agree. I like to go out and just, you know, do things in person. I prefer to do that a lot. But the
There's a
phone
lot
is
of
okay
value to
too.
that.
I have to work on the phone more, but I do like to get out in person.
well, how about your email address too?
My
Because
email is-
would you take if someone has, say, a fundraising event coming
Oh, of
up,
course.
or that you would
Yes.
would be able
Would
to
you like me
cover?
to give my email?
Yes.
It's my name. It's Huss, JHUSS at derrynews.com. And my phone number is 421-3847.
Okay, great.
And anyone can call. I enjoy meeting people over the phone and hearing their ideas too. So that always is a great thing.
So we talked about the Derry News being a publication for 135 years, but we really didn't talk about the mission of the paper, if that has changed from when it started to the mission of the paper now, and maybe what goals that you have now that it's become a free paper. And I don't know if it's always been a free paper.
No, it's been about 6 weeks, I believe, that it's been free. I can't speak to the original goals, which I would assume, though, are to let the community know what's happening in the community. Our goal is to be a reflection of the communities we cover, and that includes, as Julie mentioned, schools, town government, which is very important, children, interesting people on this week's front page. For example, we have a woman in Derry who is a coupon queen. So she's one of those people who focuses on couponing and saves an average of $100 a trip to the grocery store. And that story came about because she messaged us on our Facebook page and said she was so successful that she had a lot of toiletries and household cleaning items that she wanted to share them with organizations locally that had a need for them. So through an exchange that way, you know, I said, would you be interested in talking to a reporter? So it was a dual purpose. And I think almost everything we do does have that purpose. We share her story with other people to say, wow, if you're behind the line, you're behind her in line and she's got her big binders out, here's what she's doing. And there are so many fabulous organizations, nonprofit groups in all of our communities that work hard every day to help those who need a little bit of a helping hand. As a result, we were able to direct her toward agencies who would welcome her donations. And I do want to say, Julie is a terrific face of the Derry News, and
she is.
She's familiar, whether she's singing the national anthem on Memorial Day or carrying our banner in the holiday parade in Derry. But we also have a responsibility, in addition to these feature stories, to being a watchdog within town and school government. And Derry's had a particularly contentious budget season this year, and we do have a responsibility to let people know what things are being discussed, what options are out there, to represent both sides of the issue in every instance, and to you know, encourage people to get out and participate in local government decisions that will impact them directly. And I also want to just mention our editorial page briefly, our opinion page, which does feature the heard around town, the question of the week at the bottom. Every other week we have a column by Derry historian Rick Holmes, who gives really good insight into how the town was shaped and why. We have a very active letters to the editor section. Yes. Never short on letters, which is terrific. That shows how much passion people have for their communities and what's happening there. And we obviously have an editorial every week, which is a local editorial, and it gives the newspaper's position on an event, on an issue. Could be statewide, it's usually local. And I think sometimes people don't understand that the editorial is just that. That is the newspaper's official opinion and position on an issue, and it is, you know, reporters don't have opinions, and their stories don't reflect any opinions. Right. We go for balance all the time, so that is the one place in the paper where we do express an opinion.
And then, of course, you have your classified section. And
flyers. That's one of the big things about, and it matters to our readers a great deal. So we carry Shaw's, Hannaford, and Market Basket flyers every week. We often have Penny's, Walmart, many other retailers.
And those are important. As you said, this article with this woman and savings people count on them. And we have people who come in and they're definitely they're interested in the paper, of course, but they're interested in finding out where they can get the best deals. So there's really a lot of benefits to providing the paper now to that large readership of how many again? 23.
About 23,500.
Yeah.
It's a big increase for us, and yes, and reaching out to embrace Wyndham as part of the community.
But the benefits of all these people now getting the paper, to read about this woman who's saving so much money, and I mean that kind of trickles down to a lot of the readers that maybe are trying to save money, and so there's a lot of relevant material within the paper for them, and to keep informed of the budget discussions and what's happening at the council meetings, because a lot of people are working you know, down in Mass, that it's hard to make it here for those meetings. So your paper really does offer a lot for the viewers.
We try to localize stories, so a reader doesn't ever read a story and say, why do I care? We want to let them know why it matters to them and to their lives. The governor was here last week at Market Basket in Londonderry to kick off the New Hampshire Food Bank's Nothing campaign to raise awareness and money for people who are going hungry throughout the state. And Brianna Edelstein, our newest reporter, took a look at what the campaign, why you would contribute if you lived in Derry or Londonderry. Okay. Well, the food bank supplies food to local food pantries, so they count on that those donations.
Right, that's
as
a nice
well.
angle to come from. So, how do you generally hear about the news? Do you have people placed throughout town that give you a call on a regular basis, or do you just stumble upon it? Or?
I hope we don't stumble, although we do sometimes.
Yeah. And I guess that wasn't meant in a negative way.
No, I know you did. I was kidding you.
Yeah.
No,
you just come across.
I mean, reporters are trained to cover a beat and to know who to check in with, what meetings to go to. But it's very important. I'm always encouraging reporters, and Julie's a great example of that, to get out of the office. Yes, you're under deadline pressure all the time, but it's important that we make face-to-face contact with people that we report on.
Right.
You know, go to Marianne's, have breakfast, and eavesdrop for half an hour.
I didn't know that.
Here, it's important to listen
Yes.
in the grocery store, at the thrift shop, after church, wherever you are,
Well,
what people are talking about and what matters to them.
Right, because that's what you want to report on, what the readers want to read about, and I know I've contacted you on a number of things Summit Rotary Club is doing, and so I guess the nonprofits really are a good
And they're very connected.
Yeah.
We are connected
I mean, you're
to
such a
them.
good resource for them to get their message out there, and especially with them with their fundraising events, just to bring an awareness to what's going on in the community.
I think that I always try to emphasize to school groups, nonprofit groups, church groups, let us know well in advance of a fundraising event or a social event, because we are weekly. We do have a publication schedule that means if you call me today, it's not going to be in tomorrow, because we publish on Thursdays, but we're done with the paper long before that. And we have a Let's Go page, which is arts, local arts and entertainment. We have a calendar there, so if you'd like your event to get on our calendar, which people pick up the paper and say, oh, we've got Friday free or Sunday afternoon, what's going on in our community, and we list those events there. So we like to help people publicize their events in advance rather than after the fact. This happened. Kind
of leading up to it, and then if there's an opportunity or it seems appropriate, to maybe cover the event.
Do a follow-up, sure.
And that's great, especially, again, for a nonprofit to get that visibility by having it in the paper 2 times there. Do you do any special issues of the paper? You know, are there any occasions that there would be maybe 2 papers published in a week, or special themes?
Extra or something?
Or
no.
Never,
Because it's a weekly, so it is a different publication schedule. But we do publish now. When we went to a free publication, we also added a second edition of the paper. So if you haven't seen them both, every week there are 2 editions of the Derry News on Thursday.
I didn't know that.
One is Derry, and the other edition is Londonderry. So if you put the 2 editions side by side, the front pages are different. So the front page of the Derry edition features 95% Derry news, and the front page of the Londonderry edition is 95% Londonderry news.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'll be looking for it.
Yes,
but that's good. You're even making it more personal,
even more local
to the towns that it's being delivered in. You've made a lot more work for yourself.
We're up to the challenge for sure.
Good.
We are. We're a good
Well,
team.
talk about some of the community activities that you're involved, because I know you do the Derry Santa Fund, or the Derry News Santa Fund.
It is, yes.
Is the official title. And you can talk about that a little bit, and if there's any other community awareness or activities like that that you're involved in I may not be aware of.
The Santa Fund has been a long-standing tradition at the Derry News. I believe it's 25 years or more. I think it began basically as a way to support the Derry Community Fund, which is a great organization that has been around in Derry probably 40 or more years. So the Santa Fund became the way to support that cause, and you know, it's great every year. I mean, we publicize the Santa Fund. People are so generous. You know, we like to acknowledge people who give every year. You know, there are a lot of school groups that will have special drives to raise money, and all sorts of organizations contribute. So, and the large majority of the money still goes to the community fund, and we also now give a percentage to the Londonderry Rotary Club. I believe they have a Santa Fund.
Oh, great!
You know, mission in Londonderry. So we spread the wealth to both communities now, and it's just been great. I've enjoyed being the Santa Fund writer for many years, just meeting people and hearing, and you hear the other side, you hear the people who are in need.
Oh,
you know,
those articles are...
And you hear what the needs are, and then, you know, you'll have people that will reach out and want to help so much, you know, and so we do our best to, you know, raise awareness and help the community fund, because they do so much in the communities.
And you do a great job with those articles. I generally have tears in my eyes to realize how...
I've had tears in my eyes over the years, I know.
People are struggling.
That will just call up and, you know, tell me their story, and it's so sad, but you feel good when you help, and you some small way I can help them.
And you're encouraging the community residents to bring that awareness that people are struggling.
Yeah, it's really hits home during the holidays, you know, and puts things in perspective. So what we can do to help every year it's a good thing, and I enjoy doing it.
Right.
I think a big part of what we do in terms of participation is making people aware of needs in the community, not just at the holidays. The Derry News Santa Fund is very important to us, but at other times of the year. So if, for example, the Salvation Army has responded to 2 or 3 fires in 1 week, well, the Salvation Army goes to those scenes and supports the firefighters with bottled water and, you know, power drinks and food. Then we might put, hey, Salvation Army could use a couple of cases of water because they've been supporting the firefighters, or Sunshine Soup Kitchen has a real need for some spring clothing, or the Marion Garish thrift store. The shelves are getting bare. Do your spring cleaning and get out there. So publicizing what you can do, supporting the Derry Rail Trail and the Londonderry Trail is important to us. Right now, our Earth Day obviously was this week. Both communities are focusing on spring cleanup of roadsides, trails, neighborhoods. So we will advocate for get out and take pride in your town. We do participate in the Derry Holiday Parade every year. We're one of the sponsors of the parade, and Julie bravely carries the banner.
I look forward to that every year. I really do.
Well, you're usually
It's fun,
behind the
too.
drums and
I love
is it the
being-
police?
bagpipes are usually close by,
bagpipes.
and that's,
Yes.
besides it helps keep us in step. But anyway,
I didn't realize there was a.
but it's great. It's such a, I really do look forward to that. And you know, people along the parade route will just yell your name, and then you think, wow, you know, that's great that they acknowledge you and they maybe have an appreciation for what you do every day. And you know, that makes the job enjoyable too, when you get feedback from people and tell you, oh, you're doing a good job, or maybe you're not doing a great job, Julie. You should have done this, or you know. But it's all feedback that's I take to heart, and I think it's important.
Do you have the paper online that
Yes,
people can access?
DerryNews.com. So the entire paper is posted there. It usually posts in the wee hours of Thursday mornings. Readers can comment, but they have to put their names on it. So we don't get we get much more activity on our Facebook page because it's interactive for us. So if you posted a comment on our news website, we would see it and possibly try to reach out to you, but we wouldn't have a conversation. We have conversations all day long, every day, including weekends on our Facebook page. So honestly, if I happen to take one of my dogs out for a late night walk and I see a gorgeous moon, I'll post on Derry News Facebook page, hey, step out on the deck or open the back door and look at the moon. It's gorgeous tonight.
That's great.
And we have readers who will take simply amazing photographs of the moon and post them on our page in response to that. So it's very, very interactive that way. We had a note this morning about some trash near the rail trail in Derry. We shared that comment, and I guarantee you by the time we get back to the newsroom, someone will have taken care of it.
That's wonderful. So you're really uniting the community by using not just your paper, but by using social media.
In a big way. We did. We'll brag a little bit. We did receive the first place award for use of social media from the New Hampshire Press Association this year.
Congratulations. Good.
And it is all about our Facebook page, and it's all because of the people who post there and let us know and respond when we have questions about something there. I think of it as a virtual community bulletin board.
Okay.
Anybody can post a question, anybody can post an idea,
Right.
and you'll get responses.
So that must be keeping you busy in addition to all the other things that you do. Or do you have someone that is dedicated to trying to follow?
Yes, that
would
would
be
be Joanne.
Yeah, I
am
wondering-
encouraged often to contribute more to Facebook. I just, I'm going to totally work on that. I personally feel I'm just not as clever as my editor sometimes, but but it is a
no
great,
pressure.
it's
Yeah.
a great resource. I mean, remember we followed the Londonderry band that time. They went to the inauguration, and we contacted them before they left, and we had students, sending us photos, and so it was kind of a great way to, you know, it's a great way to follow somebody like that. They do
And
great
you're
things
getting the
over
audience that loves to use it, and they're posting.
posting
so they're
as,
doing
oh, here we
some
are,
of the,
you know, yeah, it's really great
And
interaction.
you know, media has changed so much, as you well know, that there's a need for immediate. And when you're a weekly newspaper, that can be difficult to do.
Definitely.
So we used that page and our derrynews.com page to post things that happen in between our publishing cycle. And then when you get the print edition of the paper, what we try to provide you with is a step back report on an event that may have happened 5 or 6 days ago. So the consequences of something that was breaking news that we would post as breaking news, but then a more thoughtful story about that. And there is. So if we go to a fire scene this afternoon, we'll post a short story and photos today, because in a week people won't have so many questions about why the fire trucks were screaming down their road.
But there are still a lot of people not on Facebook, so it's still,
Oh, yes.
to
I mean, our
combine
print
the two of
edition
them
is what it
are,
is, and our-
perfect. It's perfect to have both of them.
Yeah, it's like we have a Facebook, like sometimes it's like they're, you know, you get to know the name, or you'll recognize the post because it's a regular person that will respond, and it's just kind of neat. It's like you have a family out there that, you know, are supporters, and really there are a lot of people that are very, very thoughtful that post on Facebook, and I enjoy reading it.
Right, right. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to bring up? Anything we missed?
I don't.
I just want to say how connected we do feel to our broader community. It's the phone calls, it's the letters to the editor. As Julie said, when you're out at an event and people find out you're from the paper, we get positive feedback and criticism, which I welcome both, because we can always do better. We're always trying to do better. And so if someone has an issue with something we've done or haven't done, I absolutely welcome them to get in touch with me directly, to call or to email and have a conversation. We're not always going to agree, but I'm always going to listen.
And, right, there's always two sides.
Can explain why we did what we did, or why we didn't do something.
It's pretty much my town, I think, as much as probably my town where I live. So I just think it's a great town and a great community, and I think it's wonderful that I can just do even my daily business or my weekend business and still have a lot of people out there that will come up and talk to me and, you know, share their thoughts and feelings. So it's kind of like an everyday thing for me, but I really appreciate that.
Do you ever get away from it, I guess?
Sometimes, but it's okay, because I am in Derry the majority of my life, so I feel like this is my town, and I really appreciate everyone that's really so kind to me, and to Joanne, and that help us so much and keep our ideas coming and their feedback coming. So I'm embedded here, and I think it's a good thing.
I think that's fine. So if I make a quick stop at the grocery store after work, I'm happy to have conversations in the produce department with someone who's
Right. Wonderful. Well, it sounds like you're really not only a very important part of the community, but you're really welcoming anyone in the community to be part of your organization. So thank you for that. I hope you've enjoyed learning more about the Derry News and the wonderful services they offer our community. Once again, my name is Suzanne Bernier Robinson. Thank you for watching Derry Community Television.